This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
Yes, I am, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here today on Main Street. Gary Allen with you. We have a great show for you today, but I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to watch this show when we publish it in a couple of days, as well as some of our other past shows. We got some other great shows coming up. I'm currently working with Henry Winkler's agent to find time to get him on this particular program. He's now doing a book tour, so he's kind of busy out there running around, and I've got some other good things coming up. I got a psychic coming on. I have a matchmaker coming on, which would be good for me. Take a look at this and you know why I'm single. But we've got some great shows coming up for you in the future, and I'm so looking forward to bringing them to you, as I do every week. But let's get to today's program. We have two wonderful people on the particular program, Dale Jones and his wife, Jodi White. Dale and Jodi are both comedians. And Dale was a semifinalist for NBC's Last Comic Standing. And Dale has also won many comedy festivals throughout the country. He tours the United States. And not only by himself, but with his wife as well. His wife, Jodi, has been featured on Today Women's Magazine. And let's see, what else did it say here? Oh, she was on Nick Jr.'s channel, as well as Nick Mama Night Out. And also for Fox, she was on Nashville Live. And she's also been on a series Island Hoppers, which is probably the story of my life when I was a kid, with James Vanderbeek. That name sounds familiar. Jodi will bring me in on that. And she's all over the country with Southern Fried Chicks with Etta May and two other lovely young ladies. We're going to try to get them on the program at some point. So without further ado, would you bring on these two wonderful people, Jodi West and what's his name?
Jodi White and Dale Jones, or whatever you want to call us.
What did I call you, Jodi West?
Yeah.
That's all right.
I also go by Mr. White.
You go by Mr. White? Oh, you're a publisher now. Okay, we'll go to Superman. What am I calling you, West? Jodi West. Oh, I know why. I knew an actress in L.A. Her name was Jodi West.
Okay.
I won't tell you kind of business she was in the business, but it wasn't exactly her real name, Jodi West. Hey, lady, Clademan.
Lady.
She was a secretary. Okay, nice.
Well, she used to sit on some laps. Yes, that's for sure.
Nice.
All right. Before we go too far, I want to tell the people out there where you're going to be performing. Dale is going to be February 19th through the 23rd at Harrah's Casino. I presume that's in Viva Las Vegas, right?
No, that's in Cherokee, North Carolina.
It didn't say on there where it was. It just says the Comedy Zone where you're going to be.
Yeah, there's one in Cherokee, North Carolina. I'm going there.
They're all over the place. I even performed in one in Kentucky.
Okay.
I performed one in Kentucky. February 27th, March through the March 2nd, you're going to be at the Funny Bone in where?
St. Charles, Missouri. That's outside of St. Louis.
I know that.
Yeah.
Does anybody? Okay.
I
You digress. March 20th through the 22nd, the Comedy Loft in D.C. While you're there, pay a visit to the White House for me, would you please?
I've never been to this room before. I'm excited about going to the Comedy Loft. This is my first time.
DC is a unique place. I mean, I lived there for a number of years. Jodi's already left us.
It's the curtain.
She says, enough of this show. DC is interesting. I not only was in the Air Force there, but I lived there for a little bit after I was discharged because I was on Air Force One for 2.5, almost 3 years. And when I left the Air Force, I continued because I was going to GW, George Washington University. It's an interesting crowd. It's very eclectic, although now I don't know what to expect when you go there. And Jodi's going to be with Etta May, May 2nd through the 17th, or it's a Saturday at the Arlington Music Hall in Texas. And then there's another one here too, Jodi, for you guys, together on Friday, in July, but it doesn't say where you're going to be, at what comedy fest or anything else with Etta May.
You get the date?
Well,
it's on your thing, but it doesn't say when. I think it's July 11th.
She's looking for the date.
Yeah, where you're going to be. Etta May just drives me. She's wonderful. She makes me laugh. Oh my God. She reminds me of one of my aunts. Not the way she dresses, but her bluntness.
Yeah, May 17th, Marion, Illinois.
Oh, I know that area well. I lived in Chicago for a while when I worked in the AG's office. But anyway, welcome both of you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, listen, last time I had Dale on, I wanted you on at the same time. So, Mr. DePetta, thank you so very much. He represents Dale. And does he represent you, Jodi, or no?
He does not. I did nothing but comedy for a long time, and then COVID hit, and we both became non-essential and had zero income. So we decided to expand the T-shirt business. So now, most of the time, I'm running the T-shirt business, and I'm out once or twice a month.
Tommy, yeah, there you go. There's the T-shirt business. Yes. Well, we're going to roll that. We're going to roll your website. We're going to roll everything so everybody pays attention to where you're going. A question I usually ask a lot of my comic friends, and I don't know if Dale told you, but I started out doing comedy way, way, way back when Carol Leifer and all the rest were beginning at, doing their thing. I was with the Groundlings for about 2.5 years in Los Angeles, which was, if it wasn't for Robin Williams, I would have never been there to begin with. And God bless my dear, dear friend. But why comedy, Jodi? I mean, I know why Dale did it, but why comedy?
I was a mortgage broker, and I had joined it. I know, right when the market crashed. You're welcome. I had a Toastmasters club, and I gave all these sappy stories that made people cry, and it became a running joke. They brought Kleenex to the meeting if I was giving a speech. And finally, they were like, enough is enough. You got to learn to be funny, too. And I went to my local comedy club, McCurdy's Comedy Theater in Sarasota, Florida, took a class. Graduation was 5 minutes in front of a crowd, and I was 38 years old. That was my aha moment. This is what I want to be when I grow up.
Wow. I mean, I grew up with, I'll go back to Dale. I don't know what Dale has said about me because he was on the show before, but I grew up with a comic who was rather famous in Miami, where we lived in the Hollywood, Miami, the Fort Lauderdale area.
Yeah.
And I never thought about becoming a comic. I never thought about getting in the show business. Not 1 ounce. My whole dream was to be an airline pilot like my father and to fly my weight around. And then I finally realized, wait a minute, Gary, you're lousy at math. It ain't going to work. I mean, I flew in the Air Force, yes, but I didn't fly jets. So, I mean, it just wasn't going to translate and transition over from helicopters to jet airplanes. So I had to find something else. And Dale, I know you did it on a lark, right? I mean, if I remember right, wasn't it somebody dared you to go?
I was working in a warehouse, driving a forklift, working a assembly line, making brakes for diesel trucks. So somewhere right now, there's a trucker going, I was 23. Yeah. And run around like an idiot. And my friends dared me to go down there and check it out. So I went and sat for a month and watched, and then decided I could do it. And I was horrible, but I got one laugh, and that's all I needed.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really the beginning for him, Gary. Like, he was the skinny kid whose ears stuck out, who got made fun of and picked on. And another kid on the bus. I'm
gonna get some Kleenex. I'll be right back.
Another kid on the bus told him one day, hey, if you're funny, they won't hit you. They'll laugh. So he learned to be funny at a young age, and then just carried that on in life.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to say this because I've said it in front of him. DePetta knows how I feel about your husband. Of all the comedians I've known in my life, and Bob Saget was a good friend of mine, Robin Williams, Carol Leifer is a friend of mine, Elaine Boozler is a friend of mine. I mean, you name it, these people are friends of mine from way back, and people that were part of the Groundlings like Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, people that are really funny. Your husband is right up there at number 1 or 2.
Yeah, I truly believe he's one of the funniest men on the planet.
Yeah, I hope you guys will take him to the vet and get the fleas out of his ears, please. And so we can, that's the funniest routine, I swear to God. And I know it was a throwaway, but it was still a funniest routine that I had seen in a very long time. you know, and the first time I saw it, when Chris sent me a video, I went, "Oh my God, I got to get this." Oh, we got an audience. I like an audience. If they have any questions, you,
Oh, yeah.
yes, no, no,
Damn
the dog,
it.
the dog,
We got it.
the dog has a question. The dog has a question.
You can't do that. He can't see us now.
You
You're
can't
just
see
gonna just knock him upstairs.
Okay.
Upstairs.
Okay,
Sorry,
All right.
sorry about this.
We were
Gary.
trying to keep everybody quiet.
Come here.
that's
baby.
all right. Listen, it
apologize.
can happen. It can happen.
This is why we
Um,
were upstairs, and then it didn't work out, so we had to come down here.
Well, that's all right. By the way, getting back to the DC thing, I think you'll find that DC will be very friendly to you, but it's a strange town. I mean, it really is. I mean, but you'll have fun. I mean, you'll really have fun, you know. I want to talk about how you two met. I mean, because I know that's a very interesting story, and I can't wait for Jodi to come back at some point. She is coming back, right? I mean, I hope.
She's coming back. I can cover this.
Okay.
I can cover this one. So I was working at the her home club in Sarasota, and she was running around with two other comics. They always went out and did stuff, and they're doing shows around town. And they said, "Hey, you got to go see this guy." And it was a late show, and he come out when we met. And
It wasn't. It was Sunday night.
oh,
It was Sunday night.
that
I
was
like,
somebody else. That was Jodi White that I
Oh,
met.
okay.
Jodi West.
Jodi West. Jodi West. Why did I'm so sorry about that. I really am.
I didn't want to go. I was working a job and I was tired, and I'm like, I don't want to go. And
Yeah.
they made me go, and they took me to see him. And
Hmm.
I'm glad she met me before I went on stage, because she
Yeah.
would have thought I had a helmet.
Now, how long before you went, okay, that's the guy I'm going to marry?
pretty quick.
Because I know on your bio, you're on your fourth marriage, which I
am.
don't believe. You're not.
It's the name is wrong. It's Jodi with just an I, no E.
And they got it with an E all over the place.
Yeah, Dale's my fourth husband, and that first night I saw him on stage.
Yeah.
You know, we met before the show, and then I saw him on stage, and I was like, wow, that guy might actually be special needs.
And it was love ever since.
Yeah.
Well, you were in
That's a lot
competition,
about her.
huh?
That says a lot about her.
Well, she's a very kind and compassionate individual who believes in helping those that are in need. You can tell that. You know, you can tell that. Well, you're in competition with a girl I went to high school with who, let's see, well, she'd be a few years younger than me, but by the time we were 25 years old, she already had 3 husbands.
Wow.
One worked in construction. He was hit by electricity and died. The other one worked in construction. He fell off the roof and died. And the third one that she was currently married to, I understood, he also died. Now, I don't know what she's doing now, but I hope she's not married, because she's bad luck all the way around. You two also often team up together. And who helps each? Do you help each other with the sets that you put together when you are working together or separately? Because I know that Dale, the last time, had indicated that you help him a lot with some of the premises for some of the jokes that he is able to come up with. How does that work between the two of you when you're on stage together?
We don't do a lot on stage together. Our styles are so different, and we found there's such a fine line between funny and corny. If we're doing something on stage together, it's really typically somebody giving their setup and the other person giving the punchline to jokes that we already have. But I hear Dale's stage voice very clearly in my head. So he'll be running around the house and he'll just say something off the cuff, and I'll be like, that's a bit. Or he'll say something ridiculous, and he's like, that's funny, but I don't know how to get into it. And, and then we'll work on a setup together. And and then he just takes it and tweaks it and makes it his own. I think it's a little harder for him to hear my voice. Sometimes he'll write for me and I'm like, no, you're Daling it up. Yeah.
Daling it up. Okay. But I mean,
it's too silly.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that happens. What do you two go down to? I mean, Dale more than Jody. Do you go to the local comedy club there where you guys live to work out some of the stuff before you go on, say before you go on tour for a couple of dates, like before you go to Caesar's Palace or something? If there's a couple of things you want to work out, do you do that? Do you go to your local comedy club and work it out a little bit? Because Leno used to go to the Ice House every week and work out stuff that he was going to do on a Tonight Show.
Right, right. I do all my stuff on stage because I'm going so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I just I piece it out. So I write like my setups have punchlines also. So I'll kind of start there. So I'll do the setup and that'll have a punchline. And if that works, then the next night I'll do the setup and then I'll try the next line. And then the next night I'll try the setup, the next line, and the next line. And I'll just piece it all together. I do a lot of just during the show, I will ad lib and stuff. And I record everything, either audio or video. And then that way, if I ad lib something, I've got it. And then I'll sit there at night after the show and go over stuff. But I don't usually get a chance to run to the clubs and do extra sets and stuff. So just during the week, I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jody, what about you? When you see him perform, do you critique him after the fact?
Yeah, that's one of his favorite stories. He came off stage one night and I had written notes on a napkin and I was like, I've got some notes for you. And I handed it to him and he's like, oh, okay. And I was like, no, flip it over. And the whole back was full too. So that was one of his favorite.
Yeah.
One of his favorite nights. I mean, we give each other little, hey, this isn't working. How about this? What about this word? What if you take out this? Or you just need to let it die. It's never going to work.
Yeah, that's the one thing I liked about LA, in spite of what people used to think. If you went to the Improv or you went to the Comedy Store, comics would work with you. If they liked you, they would sit at the table. Jay Leno often at the front table in front of the big open window. I don't know if it's still there or not on Melrose, the big open window, but he'd sit there with young comics and say,
they revamped the whole thing. But I know what you're talking about. I remember that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, it was so open at night that when he would come down Melrose Boulevard on one of his motorcycles, you'd hear, and I remember one night Glenn Hirsch looked at me and he said, "Is that Leno?" I said, "The only one." Coming down like that, and the young comics would all go crazy. Oh, Jay Leno's in the place. Jay Leno's in the place. And then stuff like that. And one night he came rolling down the street in some brand new Harley that he bought. And Robin Williams said, I want to take that for a ride. And Leno says, you take that for a ride and I'm going to kill you right here. He said, because you don't know how to ride a motor. Robin was not very athletic. Robin didn't know anything about baseball when he did Good Morning Vietnam. And he came up with that one line, 3 up, 3 down. That's an inning. He got that from I can't remember who it was, but he got it. Oh, he got it from Rick Overton. He got the line from Rick Overton because Rick knows sports. He doesn't, but as a matter of fact, he didn't even go to his first baseball game till what's his name took him to see a Yankee game. And that was the first time he ever went to a baseball game in his entire life. He was more of an intellectual than he was anything else. But when you're out on the road, either one, you can answer this or both of you. Are there still these online TikTok comics still performing around the comedy clubs?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
How
but
are they?
They're doing the off nights mostly. And I used to be one of those guys that thought maybe they were taking work away from other comedians, but I don't think they are. I've talked to a lot of club owners, and my manager included, and they do off nights, and they're kind of helping keep the clubs open instead of just being open on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And it's bringing in a new audience. Sometimes they won't come back, but at least it's bringing more attention to the comedy club in town.
Yeah.
And I can't shun it at all because TikTok has gotten me a lot more people to show up. And I was in my head going, well, if I have the show that I have and I can get people to come, I mean, that's become a really good marketing tool for me,
Oh, absolutely. But it's just, I know there was such comedians would look down at them, as to, well, you're just on here because of the pandemic, et cetera, because the comedy clubs all closed up. And plus two, back in the day, there were what you could go to 6 or 7 comedy clubs in one night in one city. I think only LA or New York would probably, or Chicago would probably say that. I don't know if I'm correct in that, guys, but is that pretty true as you go around the country that there's maybe one, maybe two comedy clubs in a city now, if at all?
I would say that. I would say Chicago's probably got 4. Obviously New York, LA. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in Florida, I mean, there's probably just one big one in each city, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
still little teeny offshoot clubs, and like Louisville, Kentucky, we lived there for a while, and
They had 3
when
clubs.
we lived there, we actually went out and worked on jokes all the time because the club was right down the street and it was easy. And um, but there's all these rooms that all these guys run, so not necessarily clubs, but a lot of rooms, and
yeah.
a lot of comedy happening in some cities where they're passionate about it.
Yeah. I've kind of hit the level. I think there's enough room for everybody. And
How are you finding the audiences now with the political climate being what it is? Now, Dale, I know you don't do a lot of political things per se, but Jody, how are you finding it out? And even when you're with Etta, I mean, she does things about her family and that homespun stuff. But excuse me, how are you finding audiences out there with the political climate to being what it is, from the north to the south, the east, west?
I don't talk any politics either. I just think that's the quickest way to split your audience and
Yeah.
lose them. So nothing I do is politics, but I still do stuff on stage that's politically incorrect and insensitive, but I make fun of myself as much as I make fun of anybody else, so I get away with it, and nobody's upset. My daughter and her young friends will come to my show, and her friends will be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she said that," because you're not supposed to say those things these days in this culture. But as a comedian, I can get away with that. But I stay away from politics. I do some bit about ending up with a Hitler mustache, and all weekend long, I wanted to say something like, "Where's Elon when you need him?" But I was like, "Don't do it. You're just gonna split the audience. Just it's funny to you. Don't do it." So
No, you know what? I look at his face and I think this guy's had to have had a number of facelifts, because nobody's face looks that stretched. I
yeah,
mean, except maybe Zsa Zsa Gabor before she died. I mean, nobody had a face. I mean, my God, this guy's had a. Have you looked at his face really good? I mean, it looks like there's no wrinkles, there's no nothing, and the guy's what, almost 60 years old, isn't he? I mean, he's not a kid by any stretch of the imagination.
yeah.
But it is what it is. How are you finding young comics today? I know I was talking to Rich Scheidner Snyder, and he had booked a couple of comics in a comedy club, and they didn't bother to show up, so he had to do like 3 hours on his own, which he's extremely capable of doing.
they didn't
But
show
how
up.
are you? They didn't know, the 2 comics he booked didn't show up, and he emailed me right away. The next day, and I said, "Well, that's what you call people who don't really want it." He said, "Yeah, inexperience and too stupid to realize that every time you get on stage, it's moving your career forward." And it's just a terrible thing. How are you finding the young people out there today when you perform on stage? The young people that are ahead of you, because you're both headliners.
Yeah, it's weird because I worked Chattanooga this past weekend, the Comedy Catch, and I was just talking to my feature about this. But he's been doing it a long time, and he only came to feature because he's trying to get a foot in the door. But he's like, "Hey, is it okay if I sell merch?" He set my merch up. He, everything, and I was like, "It's they don't do that anymore. I work with young comics. They don't ask. I'll walk out there. All their merch is set up. Mine's bag's still inside." Um, yeah,
But you remember those people. You remember them because they did something for you, so you're kinder to them the next time you work together, or you'll recommend them for another gig.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was just like a courtesy thing in comedy, and it really didn't have anything to do with how they were on stage or anything else. But it just was like there's this unspoken stuff of what you do when you're working a club and you're featuring for somebody, and it's just kind of lost. I don't know.
Yeah, when they're young, they're kind of thinking of themselves. They don't care about you. And when we were doing comedy back in the day, there was no merchandise. There was no T-shirts. There was no hats. There wasn't any wristbands or whatever the case may be. You went on, you did your act, you came off, and that was pretty much it. You know, there wasn't the merchandising like it was today. Of course, there wasn't the social media platforms that have really been a major help for comedy clubs and as I discussed earlier with the Tic Tac stuff for a lot of performers, not just comedians, but singers and other people that are in the business as well.
Yeah, but I would sit when I was first starting, I would sit in the back of the room and watch every comic and everything they said because I wanted to see how they did it and the little nuances and everything. And so many times now I see the young guys, they'll get done with their set and they go to the bar and drink and they don't watch the show, they don't care. And that's not
No,
everybody. Don't get me wrong. There's a
no.
lot of good young ones coming up that are really into it and passionate, but not
Hmm.
all of them.
You know, I was Dale knows this so too well, and so does Chris. Chris and I have talked about this time in and time out. I do not like dirty comics. I have never liked a dirty comic. Um, and I hate to say this because, and Dale, you'll remember our last discussion.
Right.
I hear too many people on stage. I was watching a program. It was on the internet, and it was a female comedian, and she was sitting on or she was right next to a stool. And I know comedians will have a stool with the water on there so they can drink, and that's wonderful. And then she looked over at the stool. She said, "Oh, I remember that stool. That's where I got fingered last night." And I thought to myself, was that really necessary? Was that really necessary to bring up something like that? Or the F bomb, every other word coming out of him. Back when I was doing the whole attempt was to go to LA, get on the Tonight Show or one of the other shows and start marketing yourself out to Las Vegas and opening for this one, opening for that one. Even Tom Dreesen, who's a dear, dear friend of mine, said, no, I don't like dirty humor either. Johnny Dark doesn't like. I mean, a lot of comedians, they don't like it. There's no reason for it. Occasionally, okay, fine. But on a regular basis, no, I'm sorry. It's just not, it doesn't show that you have anything going on up between the ears. That's just my opinion. Do you
Gary,
find that?
favorite. Give me a good dark rape joke and I'm in heaven. Yeah.
But she's
Okay.
not up there to be dirty just to be dirty. I don't believe that. And I also don't believe that doesn't mean there's anything up here.
No. I just, you both know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I
How did
mean,
the crowd react when the woman said that about the stool?
silence,
Okay. All right.
complete and utter silence, except one woman in the back yelled out, "It wasn't on that stool."
Well, that's funny.
Yeah. I mean, that was the only reaction that they got. But I mean, I grew up with an uncle who was a dirty comic. Tubby Boots was about as dirty and filthy as it gets, but he was also funny when he was clean. And like I said, the whole purpose of comedy back in the day was to get on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. You get on Carson, he calls you over to the couch, you're made. You got agents in the morning calling you to go and open for this one or go to Vegas and work so many weeks out of the year. You guys work any cruise ships at all?
We did.
We did work cruise ships.
I worked Carnival for maybe 6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd you find it?
It was fun. You got to be in a room with 400 people that waited in line for an hour because they didn't want to miss your next show, and the energy was through the roof. But after a lot of years, I found it really isolating and depressing. So it was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Dale?
I thought it was a prison on water.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent 2.5 years on a ship.
That's what would happen. Everybody would leave. You're on the next one. The menu's
Yeah.
the same. The food's the same, and everything. And then
The
after
midnight buffet, yes, and it never changes. It's always the same
Right.
mound of potato salad or pizza or whatever on Tuesday nights. Wednesday night is this. I worked on a ship for 2.5 years, and man, I couldn't wait to get off the Emerald Seas. It was out of the port of Miami. I enjoyed it. My uncle was on the ship at the same time, which is how I got the job. I was only supposed to be on the ship for 6 months. I ended up 2.5 years on it. Made great money back then. You made very good money, but I won't even go on a ship now as a passenger, normal passenger. I'm like, I'll fly there. Thank you very much.
Right.
You know, but I did. I felt like, like I was living in I stayed in my room and I did some other things during the day. But if they caught me walking around the ship during the day, people would say, "Hey, I got a joke for you. I got a joke. Hey, you think you're funny? I got a joke for you." And I'd be like, "Oh, please, 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 please." What is the difference for either one of you when you work a big city as compared to a small town? Say you're gonna work Las Vegas, or you're gonna work LA, or you're gonna work New York, then you're gonna work Orlando, Florida, which, being a Floridian like Jodi, I mean, I grew up in Hollywood, Florida, but there's a big difference. Do you find the audiences different as well as to what they will and won't like?
I like being in the middle of nowhere. I think our crowds, I think both of us, like our core crowd is hardworking, middle class, beer drinking, uh people. Like I remember showing my Spanx in LA and some woman looking at me like, "Oh, I don't even know what those are." And I know she was lying because she's an overweight woman in LA. I know she was probably wearing Spanx that night, but I don't know. It was just a different mentality. So I don't know. I have a lot of fun with the Midwest crowd or the small town crowd. Or some of the best gigs I did were in North Dakota in the middle of nowhere where they have no entertainment and they're just so happy that you're there. Like, I think the big cities are like overwhelmed with so many entertainment choices, but you go to a little town where they got nothing,
Yeah.
man, they are excited. So that's my
Yeah,
favorite.
it's like the local Howard Johnsons, the 2 surprise flavors of the month. What are they? Well, we got them,
Yeah, yeah,
chocolate and vanilla, we
exactly.
got them. We got them. You guys, put up that one picture of Dale and Jodi together with the thing on his head, please. Yeah. Uh, which was it that you got done that day, my friend?
So we had a dog get surgery, and it was it was a lower area. We had a dog. We had a dog get surgery, and I looked at the vet and I go, "Hey, do you have one of those that would fit me?" And after they stared at me a little bit, they went, "Yeah." And then we went down on Hollywood Boulevard, and I put that thing on, and we did pictures. And there's another one on my website of me with that cone on, hiking on a post,
Huh.
and I'm wearing pants. But you would think nothing would stop traffic on Hollywood Boulevard. You think they'd seen it all, but they had not seen a full-grown man in a dog cone hiking on a post.
Yeah, I saw that and I went, "Oh, okay, all right, all right."
I
There's
think
a
it's
story.
extremely funny. I had a guy send me an email and he goes, "That's a little over the top. I think you should take that off your website." I I just laughed at it. I was like, "Okay,
No,
if you can't
I
handle
think, and particularly when you figure out that when you say the story that it was done in LA, no, that's not over the top.
I
No.
just thought it was something silly and funny to do, and I it's nothing you wouldn't see on Laugh-In. you would see,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
mean,
the mentality, just being silly. But this guy thought it was way over the top and and disgusting. Which
oh god.
makes me want to make the picture bigger and put it on the outside of my house.
Now here's something I want people to know about you. You actually worked with Denzel Washington.
Yes, briefly, very briefly. I was in the movie Out of Time, and he came. I was in a scene where I was working on a boat, and he
Mhm.
came walking down the dock, and he said, "Hey," and I went, "Hey, Chief," and then the beauty of Hollywood is they edited out my voice and put somebody else's in there and kept me an extra.
Why did they edit out your voice? You have a
I
nice
was an
voice.
extra that day. Then they gave me a line. If I would have said that line and they kept it in the movie, I would have got a SAG card. It wasn't SAG
Yeah.
after yet. And I would have got all that, but they wanted to keep me at $100 for 10 hours. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I got to work
Well,
with him. I spoke briefly to him when I bumped into him going to the restroom, and he said, "Excuse me." And I said the same. So we're very close. And
yes, 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 yes.
I was supposed to be in another scene where he was sitting there in a restaurant talking to somebody, and I was on the boat outside the window, and they said, "Just act like you're working on a boat," which I'd never done. And I'm swinging the anchor, acting like an idiot. They hollered, "Cut! Get the moron off the boat." So I could have been in two scenes, but I was only in one. I'm surprised the director even I was such an idiot. I just playtime. And the director goes, okay, Dale, just act like you're scrubbing on the boat. Don't stare at him. Just act you're working on a boat. I went, okay. And I go to dress, and I walk in the door in that wardrobe, and they look at me and they go, you look like you work on a boat. Just wear what you wear. So and then I looked at the director and I go, do you want me to jump off the boat and swim to the dock and then tap Denzel on the shoulder and go, that's my boat? And he goes, I don't know. I don't want you to do that. I'm amazed they even
when you guys lived in LA, did you guys audition for commercials and stuff, or no? Was it just strictly sticking to the comedy and that was it?
We did have an agent that was interested in it.
We auditioned a little bit when stuff popped up and nothing ever, just came out. We ran around, we did sets, but we learned really quickly when you live in LA, you can't make a living in LA. So then to afford to live, we were on the road all the time. So we'd go on, like Dale auditioned for something and they're like, yeah, we want you for it. And he's like, oh, I'm already booked that week in Poughkeepsie. So,
Yeah.
So that was the hard part. And then we had an agent that was interested in us through our acting class.
Yeah.
Oh, where'd you study?
It never worked out. So
Where'd you study at?
We were with, what was his name? Chick. He was in Thank God It's Friday, and he was in Reds and something.
He looks like Robert De Niro.
Chick.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Who was the lady? Who was the acting coach that we did her thing?
I did Leslie. We both did Leslie Kahn. We did her classes.
Okay. All right.
And I had gone to Second City before that in Chicago and done a year of acting.
Oh God. I lived on Michigan Avenue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I lived at 535 North Michigan Avenue, right across the street from, I think it's the Sheridan. I lived in the same building where Nancy Reagan grew up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and of course I was there. I wasn't a member of Second City. I already did the Groundlings thing. I was working in the Attorney General's office, and my wife was working at J. Walter Thompson. And I missed out on being the new voice of Tony the Tiger when the gentleman who had been doing it had passed away, because the casting director said, oh my God, Gary, you nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. And then they discovered my wife was the advertising agency at J. Walter Thompson, and that ended that. So, yeah. I mean, back then they had rules and regulations and stuff. But yeah, I lived in Chicago, and I loved Chicago. I mean, the bars were situated in such a way that the minute in the winter your butt got cold, you could duck into a bar and have a drink. And by the time you got home, you were half in the bag, and suddenly the wife was looking pretty good. I mean, but no, but I wasn't a member of Second City. Who was it? There were a couple of people I know that were at Second City at the time who have gone on to be somewhat famous, but not like the current crop that is certainly out there hosting the Tonight Show or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But I've known a lot of at the Groundlings, of course. I had Kevin Costner in my class, Bob Saget, Barbie Benton, Nick DeTuro. And I took it because I was doing radio at the time and I wanted to continue on with my improvisational skills. Then I was also emceeing for Bud. I was emceeing for Bud, and I auditioned out there too for commercials and stuff. But they kept saying, you look a lot like Jay Leno, and we can't, I can't do anything for Jay, and stuff like that, So it finally ended up doing Jay Leno on stage in Las Vegas when I was opening for different people. It was fun, and Jay used to come and see me, and he'd say, yeah, you do a better job of me than I do of me. So why don't you take over and stuff like that, So, but I love Jay, and I often, when I do the shows lately, I've been saying my prayers to Mavis, his wife, who is not doing well with Alzheimer's. So I'm praying for her, and I'm praying for Jay, because I've known Jay since I was 9 years old. So, but what is in store for both of you now for the future? I mean, is it going to continue on doing comedy? What do you guys want to do? I mean, is there another step you want to take in the business? I know DePetta has got you booked all over the place, but and Jodi, what about the business itself? Put up that T-shirt little icon, please. There you go. I want to make sure people buy these T-shirts. They're fabulous. I asked Dale if you made a hat with Dale Jones on it. I was going to have you send it to me because I want to wear it all over the place, and I want to promote this guy. I mean, I really do.
Yeah, we'll make you a hat. Yeah, we do screen printing and embroidery. We print shirts for, a handful of comics, and we do it for schools or businesses or whatever. So you can go on our website and buy like a single funny shirt. There's some of Dale's stuff on there. But most of what we do is like a bulk printing, like
Hmm.
50 shirts for this fundraiser, or 500 shirts for this 5K run, or, whatever it is.
And you don't do them all yourself. You have employees, I hope.
Yes, yes. My oldest son and his husband, they work for the business. My son does all the embroidery, and his husband does most of the screen printing. And then we have another young lady. She is a screen printer.
Hmm.
So
I don't touch anything, and that's our logo. Like, Dale won't touch this. You get a quality product. So
I know. I talked to you the other day. You were making deliveries, and I said, is that what you do? He said, that's the safest thing I can do. I can't ruin anything out here making deliveries. So
when we first started, I had left to go get on a cruise ship, and we got an order that day, and I was like, babe, it cannot wait for 2 weeks for me to get back. I just need you to make this one shirt.
One shirt.
One shirt. Took him 3 hours, eight shirts that he ruined, and it still wasn't perfect, but he went ahead and mailed it.
Yeah,
so,
and we never heard from them again, and I'd like to apologize.
we don't let him touch anything.
No, I had a friend of mine who used to make jerseys down in North Miami, and he used to make them for where I went to college, eventually where I graduated, the University of Miami, the U, and he used to make them for Florida State because he went to Florida State and other places, and he used to make them for the Miami Dolphins back in the day. But then when it proliferated to what it is today, I think he's probably got a huge factory now, the size of an aircraft hangar, for all the T-shirts and stuff that he does for NFL teams and stuff like that. It's a very lucrative business if you get the right contracts.
Yeah, well, all those colleges and everything else, you have to have a license to do that. All those schools and everything, and those licenses are very expensive, and you pay it every month, whether you make enough money off of it or not. So, but if he's got the contracts and the licenses, yeah, I'm sure he's doing great.
Oh, he's doing fantastic. I mean, the last time I talked to him, he was still going at it. He's a little bit older than me, and he's still working. I said, well, you could afford to retire. You're a millionaire 3 times over. He said, retire to what?
Yeah.
What am I going to retire to? And it's the same as me, even though financially I'm a disaster area at the moment, but it's like, what do you retire to? It's like when my dad retired from Eastern Airlines at 60, he said, now what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Now, I can only travel with your mother so much because she only put up with me for so long. So what about you two? Is this it now? I mean, till the day they carry you off the stage, Dale? I mean, is that it?
I have no other skills. So this is, yeah, I mean, this has probably been I would say this has been my only passion my whole life. I mean, it's the only thing when the pandemic hit, I was like, I don't know what else I could do. I have no idea. So, yeah, I just want to, and the whole reason I would like to do TV or movies or anything else is all to come back to stand up so more people can see me. It's not, the goal isn't to get a TV show to be an actor. The goal is to get a TV show so more people can see my stand up.
I was just thinking of something. You should talk to DePetta about getting a comedy club like the Punchline and filming you with other comics for a comedy night, and then try to get it on a network.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what Steve Harvey did. He bought himself a comedy club, and that's where he kept going night after night after night after night after night, and that's how he improved his comedy. Not that you need any improvement. I mean, you're wonderful the way you are.
You always need improvement. The minute you think you're done, you're dead in the water.
Oh, no. You don't understand what I mean. I mean, he got to the point where, he was good enough that he could keep moving forward the same as you can do. But I'm thinking, why not use the Punchline? Because you guys live in Atlanta, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know where the Punchline is from where you live.
It's like 5 minutes away. It's not far at all.
I mean, sit down and talk to Chris and say, hey, how about let's doing one night a month or whatever, and film me with a couple other comics, my wife included, whatever the case may be. And let's have some fun and see if we can maybe get a comedy show sold on television. I mean, they're dying for content. I mean, whether it be one of the networks or one of the cable companies, I mean, I think it would be fantastic to have you on there every week, having a show on TV. It would be fabulous for you.
No, that'd be really cool. Do you know anybody?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know DePetta and I know a few other people, but I'll call DePetta. I'll talk to him.
Okay.
I'm not the least bit afraid to talk to Chris about
Oh, no,
anything.
I could talk to him too. I meant, do you know anybody else? Because I could talk to DePetta. I need you to know somebody.
There are a couple of people I might know. Mr. Schreiner and I go way, way back.
Oh, I
You
love
know,
Rich. I love Rich.
no, Will.
Oh, Will Schreiner. I thought you meant Rich Schreiner. I'm sorry.
No, Rich Schreiner and I go back too, but no, Will Schreiner and I go back. Well, you know who his brother is, don't you?
Rich or Will?
Will.
No.
Ken Schreiner. He played Scotty Baldwin on General Hospital.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're twins. They're twins.
I've heard.
His mother and father were in show business. They both were killed on the same night in an automobile accident. And he and his brother and sister were orphans, like overnight.
Oh.
Overnight. And they've done so well for themselves. Will is one of the most talented. Will and I both share a love for flying. We've gone flying together in the past, but we both share a love for flying. And he's one of the nicest gentlemen in the world. But no, I'd love to see you on a weekly basis. Are you kidding me? Doing your own show? I think that would be fantastic. And then eventually owning your own comedy club.
That'd be pretty nice.
That would be great.
Club. I wouldn't want to run it because I've seen how people run a club. Oh Lord, that's a lot of work.
Well, no, you don't have to run it. You could have people running it for you, but Jodi would probably run it for you as long as you didn't mess with anything. Like, don't mess with those dials, whatever you do, for God's sakes, don't mess with those
Carry
dials.
the boxes in and drop them and leave. That's pretty much my thing.
How did Etta May come to find you, Jodi?
Michael Alfano at the Comedy Catch referred her to me. She was looking for a couple other women that she could add to the tour because typically it's just three of us. Most of the time it's Etta May, myself, and Sonia White. And then if I'm not available, then Leslie Norris Townsend, or if Sonia can't be there, Leslie's in. So I think she just referred her to me, and we had never met. And then we became pretty darn close. I mean, she came for Thanksgiving. She'll come stay here at the house. We're like, it's fun getting to travel with women because male comedy's so male dominated.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're working with guys, so it's very rare that you get to just go get some solid girl energy and girl time. It's always fun.
Yeah. What is that like, working with Etta May? Because when I see her stuff on Facebook, I'm just floored. I am just literally floored. She's so funny and so down humor. I mean, the things that she does to people in the audience is just unbelievable. But you said something that I want to revert to before we get to Etta May real quick about women in comedy. Are there more or are there less women now than there were, say, 10 or 15 years ago? Because I was under the impression there were more. But is there more or less?
I don't know, honestly, because they typically don't book women together. Usually I'm on the road and I've got a male MC and I've got a male feature. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Dale, what about you? What do you find out there?
I would say there's more women headlining now. I think there's more female comics that are bigger names than when I started.
Yeah.
Because now you've got people like Amy Schumer that lift people up, and bring people along and say, hey, you get this person, and then they should get those people attention and rightly so. Special Nikki Glazer, I believe she was helped out with Amy Schumer. I may be wrong on that one, but I believe there are more female headlining comics out there now. I think so, especially
it was
the online presence.
Yeah, it was tough back in the day. It was very tough for a young lady to even get. Bud Friedman was a little skeptical.
I think it's still tough. I think the road is tough for anyone, but I truly believe for a woman it is 10 times more difficult, just because and they're alone more, because a guy can go out and run around with the people from the crowd, and go to the bar and whatever. And if a woman does that, then all of a sudden there's these expectations and it gets a little sketchy. So they like, hey, I'm going to go back to my room. There's a lot of that,
Yeah, and that's a terrible part about show business in general. When you're talking about comedy or being an actor or producer or director, rumor city. I mean, I
Yes,
just I
exactly.
don't like the drama, the rumors. Just let people be.
Yeah,
You
there is
know,
a double standard. If a guy goes out and does all that, oh, he's one of the boys, and a girl does that and does that, and she goes, oh, she's a harlot. I mean, there
yeah,
is definitely a double standard, and it hasn't changed over the years. And
no,
I
and
think
that's a terrible part. That's a
Well,
terrible part.
it's just small-minded thinking,
when
I
I
believe.
first started in comedy, I was talking to Janet Williams, the Tennessee Tramp, and she said one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is never sleep with another comic.
Yes.
And she said, because then the other male, they'll tell everybody, and the other male comics have expectations and everything else. So I'll always tell that to young female comics that ask me. And I was like, you'll just lose respect within the community. But I've heard a couple like tell somebody else that they thought it was really hypocritical of me since I'm married to Dale.
Yeah, but you're married to Dale.
Yeah, but we weren't, at some point. But yeah, that was one of my hard fast, because there's a double standard in comedy, and people talk, and the whole women aren't funny, and it's a tough road out there for us girls.
Yeah, I remember back when where Joan Rivers was about it, Toady Fields was about it, Elaine Boozler had come along, and of course she and Robin were very, very close at one time. Carol Leifer came along. Carol went through her ups and downs getting started. It was very difficult for women. MCs and comedy club owners didn't want to book them, didn't want to put them on. And if they did, they put them on late to even get a shot, open mic night. And were very hard on them. And it was not fun at all. It was like Jeff Dunham when he first came to LA. I remember people saying I'd heard about him, this ventriloquist, and everybody looked down on him. Everybody poo-pooed him. Like, he's not a comic. He's not this. Well, now look at him. I mean, he's tearing the world apart. I mean, he's a funny guy with the different thing. I always like Walter myself, because I like when Walter says, "Oh yeah, I was a greeter at Walmart." Yeah, what you would tell him? Get your stuff and get the hell out. And stuff like that, and Bubba J and all the rest. So I don't like the rumor mills, and I don't like any of that. For both of you, who were your heroes that you emulated maybe at first? Took a little here, took a little there until you developed your own style? Either one, both.
You may go first. I emulated anything that was physical because I grew up watching Looney Tunes and stuff like that. But I was a huge, before he hit stadiums, I was a huge Brian Regan fan.
Mhm.
I thought he was it.
And you know how I feel about Mr. Regan.
Right. I forgot about that.
I knew Brian Regan before Brian Regan was Brian Regan, because I
But
worked with his
I
brother.
also love I love Robin. I love watching Richard Pryor. I like watching anything that was silly and goofy. And then with Pryor, I learned how to tell stories and stuff. So I took a little bit of everything. I was very character driven too. So I loved Bobcat. I loved Emo. I even loved it how focused Andrew Dice Clay was doing that character. How he just never dropped.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant. So I
Jody?
probably pulled all from that, and then some of the people I worked with in the warehouse, and then just kind of pieced my own guy together with my own whatever I
Yeah.
thought was funny. I put on stage.
Jody, what about you?
Excuse me. Well,
Bless you.
Gary, I liked the dark and the dirty. I liked excuse me. Dave Attell, Sarah Silverman, anything that was wrong.
Yeah.
Stanhope, you like Stanhope? She come off stage one night. The comic says, "What are you trying to be, Mrs. Stanhope?"
Have you ever met Sarah Silverman?
I have not. I got to meet Stanhope, and I got to see Dave Attell, but I didn't talk to him.
Yeah. Well, she's an acquired taste. Just ask Jimmy Kimmel. He'll tell you she's really an acquired taste. We've got about a minute and a half left. And thank you both very much. If all is said and done and you're alone in a room somewhere without each other or together, or it's just quiet time, Who is Jodi? Down deep inside, who are you?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm the girl who loves to be on stage, but if you put me in a room full of people I don't know, I'm the shy one that'll stand in the corner and just observe. I love to listen to books. I love to hike in nature, and I love getting to hang out with my best friend.
Oh, I was going to say, who's that?
He's coming. He'll be here.
He's coming. He'll be here in a little. Well, that's our date in Memphis on in November. Dale, what about you? Who is Dale Jones?
I'm pretty shy, actually. I'm just a boy standing in front of a crowd asking them to love him.
and they do, and they do.
I read. I'm kind of a video game nerd, but I won't go online because I can't stand to be insulted by 9-year-olds.
Okay.
I'm not as thick-skinned as people think I am, and I just kind of want to make people laugh. That's my whole thing, and my whole act is turned into comedy therapy for me and the crowd. I really want everybody walking out there going, "I needed that," and that really makes my day. And I'm getting that more. That's become more important to me every day. That people come up and go, "Man, I needed that." And I go, "It's good for you, right?" And that's so. I'm a doctor.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Listen, we've run out of time. You two stay right where you are. Let me close out the show. I want to thank all of you very much for watching the show. We're going to have this program very soon, right on the YouTube channel. Plus, it'll be on DBTV very, very soon. I'll let you know all about that. Until we meet again next time, we're going to do some sports next week with Dave Lamont from ESPN. And I think Jeff DeForest is even going to be joining us to talk about all kinds of sports that's going on. Until we meet again, take care of yourselves and God bless.